All right. Thank you, Monica. So here we are, geez, September 27th, starting really feeling like fall uh, very quickly. I was in the Midwest for the weekend, the upper Midwest, and it started to feel cool. One of the, fun facts for those who haven't visited Minneapolis is that the Mississippi River runs between Minneapolis and St. Paul. One of those things I don't think I knew that until I got there, and it's a great, really beautiful trails along the river there. And you're just walking along. It's very flat, and then all of a sudden it's like it's in a gorge there. So there you go. That's your geography lesson for this morning. I could expand on it, but maybe I'll leave it at that. So I don't have anything special to offer today. Well, yeah, actually, I do have some special things now that I mention it. Once I said special, I don't know if I mentioned that because I didn't see you guys on Friday night, did I? I guess I think Anne was covering that. So my new old book, or my old new book, Living Kindness, was reviewed in Publishers Weekly. So if you're interested in seeing what the publishing world is the meeting starting earlier these days? Not that I know of. We start at 10 o'clock West Coast time. But anyway, so I got a very nice review, and then the reviewer actually interviewed me over the phone, which was afterwards I realized I hadn't read the book in a really long time, and I didn't know what to say about it. It was pretty bad. But anyway, just getting some attention for the book is really great. And Publishers Weekly is, my wife was impressed. So, if you have any sense of what she's like, she's not easy to impress. In fact, when I was acting blasé, she got mad at me for being blasé. So there you go. Anyway, so Living Kindness comes out December 27th. And if you would like to pre-order it, you can get it with the discount, 30% discount with the discount code LK30. And they're charging a ridiculous price for it. Sorry. They're charging like $21 for the book. Man, terrible. I guess I'm not supposed to say that, but anyway, I'll put the link to the page where they sell it. And some of you I know already have it from the earlier edition, and definitely if you have the earlier edition, nothing has changed in this except the cover. And I think I changed one sentence that I didn't like. So that's, you don't need to spend your money on it if you're not, if you don't want to have a new cover, if you don't care about having a new cover. All right, I'm sorry. My usual madness. We shouldn't have started recording. So there's a link to the Shambhala website where you can pre-order it. All right, stop it. We'll stop now. We need to meditate, and then I'll calm down. I always calm down when I meditate. Or yeah, I think I always do, usually. So I hope everyone is well. It's nice to see the gang, the Tuesday morning gang. And let's sit and then figure out something to talk about this Tuesday morning. So, yeah, I just flew in from Minneapolis yesterday afternoon. So lots of flights. Helps to meditate when you've been flying. So settling into a comfortable posture that supports your Mindfulness supports your gathering your attention, focusing your attention. You can close your eyes or just lower your gaze. And it can help to just start by feeling your body. Can you feel your body? Can you feel just your body as this object without thinking about it? Are there particular sensations or parts of the body that your attention is drawn to right away? I feel a lot of energy in my face and my hands. And certain parts of the body are less active or stimulated. We can think of this as just arriving. It's not as if we can just transition from our ordinary activity into silence and just be totally focused right away. It takes some time. So it's nice to have a sort of easeful approach, not a sort of pressurized way of meditating, like, okay, right now I need to feel my breath. It's like just to start easy, just feeling yourself sitting and maybe noticing your breath in a kind of general way. Your chest is moving, air is coming in and out. Notice your own environment, each of us in our own space. I can hear the washing machine running. I don't know if that's coming through my microphone. Sort of humming in the background. With mindfulness, we're not trying to sort of create this preciousness, like everything's got to be quiet. To really, again, easeful, just, yeah, there are sounds, there are sensations. My mind is pretty busy right now. It's okay. Just sitting with all of that. We do have to have a certain amount of faith or trust in this process, especially when we're starting out, when we're learning to meditate. And indeed, each time we sit down, we need to remember that this works and that we can trust in the gradual settling that will happen. It can also be very helpful just to tune into your mood, kind of your mind state. What are you bringing with you into this period of quiet? Some worries or plans, regrets. And those things, those thoughts and ideas also manifest as feelings. And that all appears in the body. We start to see that there's this system operating. Mind body. I'm not sure that captures all of it, but I'd rather say mind body feeling. Of course, feeling is in mind and body, and the thing that links them. The more subtle aspect of it, though. So with that view, that awareness of the system, then starting to practice more intentionally. So here's where we put the attention on the breath as a concentration object or a focal point. And that can be the breath at the nostrils or the belly. So at a single point, or it can be the breath more as a movement following the breath. The distinct quality of mindfulness is not simply feeling the breath, but knowing that we are feeling the breath, or knowing that we are breathing. And this is what gives us the sense of being fully present. It's not just a concentration and a feeling, it's an understanding that that focus is happening. Naturally enough, the mind wanders when we try to just hold the attention on one thing. And so, especially as we enter into a period of practice, there's this back and forth much of the time, noticing that you've lost track of the breath, that you're lost in thought or caught up in a story, and then gently coming back. Come back to the body and the breath. A great deal of wisdom and understanding can be developed by noticing in that process the nature of the thoughts. So this doesn't mean the specific story in the thought, but rather, am I planning or remembering? Is there wanting or judging? This is the nature of the thought, the thing that reveals the patterns of the mind, the things that really capture us, the habits of mind. It's helpful when we can to take a glimpse at the thought before returning to the breath. Just acknowledge to yourself what's going on in that thought. If it's not apparent immediately, it's fine. Just drop it, reconnect with the breath. But a certain kind of cataloging can happen when we do this. It's very revealing. All right. Welcome again. Anybody here for the first time? Curious. You could wave your hand or something. Well, maybe there's people hiding out. Anyway, you're all welcome. I am Kevin Griffin, and this is our usual Tuesday gathering. It's a 20-minute meditation, and then I'm going to talk for a little while, and there's usually a little time for people to chime in and ask questions or share anything they want. Yeah, and I am, wearing this cap. It's not the latest fashion in Buddhist, dressing, Buddhist clothing. It's I have a big old bandage on my head from a recent drive-by from sickness, old age, and death. Always good to have those reminders. But I have been given a completely clean, I don't know if I told you that, guys. I got a completely clean report from the biopsy, so they got all the nastiness for now. But you never know what's lurking in there. Anyway, yeah, that was really good news. It was not improving my serenity. I will say that. Let's say, it's always really interesting to see what happens to our minds, especially when we're supposed to be Buddhists. Oh yeah, I'm totally equanimous. Everything is just impermanent. Anyway, I'm doing well. So I thought today a topic that's been kind of coming around for me repeatedly, and I may have talked about this recently, but here it is. Again, is the topic of faith. And we know it's sort of an issue, definitely can be a big issue in 12-step work, because step 2, we come to believe that, power greater than ourselves and all that's going to restore me to sanity, and turning it over to God or whatever. And, so there's definitely a challenge in that regard. But it's also, a really important area in Buddhist practice. Faith is considered to be one of the 5 spiritual powers. The others are mindfulness, wisdom, concentration, and energy. It's actually a good topic as well to reflect on at some point if you're interested in. So maybe just Google the 5 spiritual powers and read about them, because they're kind of this intertwined elements, the wisdom and faith balancing, and then the energy and concentration balancing. In any case, just to start from the recovery standpoint, because I think it gives us a good sort of entry point into this question of the role of faith, that just in order to start to just give up our addictive behavior, to take on abstinence, it requires a certain amount of faith, because typically we think we need whatever it is that we're doing, drinking, using, sex, drugs, whatever, gambling, food, never forget food, or just the kind of controlling behavior, like I need to behave in this way in order to take care of this person, or to get them to behave the way I think they should behave. So all of those energies within us are telling us we need to do this. And, recovery and abstinence are saying to us, actually, you don't need to. And actually, those things are causing you suffering. And we usually know that part, kind of. We usually know that, at least that we know the part about it's causing us suffering, but we're not sure that we don't need it, need to do it. And that's where the faith comes in. So the question of, first of all, like, can I get along? Can I survive? Will it, or just simply, will it make anything better if I stop this? Or can I live without this? That's, I remember that feeling about, about drinking and using, like, yeah, maybe I can live without this, but my life is just going to be bleak and empty and boring, as if it were like really glamorous and exciting at the time, which it was not. It was pretty bleak and boring, and destructive. But nonetheless, we cling to that which we know, right? And to enter into the unknown takes some faith, some trust. And this applies certainly to Buddhist meditation as well. Someone says, well, it's really, really useful to like do this meditation where you sit down and do nothing or follow your breath for 30 minutes, and you're like, what, how, what's that going to do? And I guess, it's an important question. Maybe the key question is, how do I get faith if I don't have it? And I think it, there's one kind of standard way that makes a certain amount of sense, which is we look at other people who are doing the thing that we're thinking about maybe doing and see how it's going for them, right? And so that's sort of a practical application of it. It's like, oh, like those people don't drink and use and their lives seem to be going well and they seem happy, or those people meditate and they seem to have a certain amount of serenity or clarity. And that's definitely, I think, the most kind of direct way. But the other piece that I think is really useful is to look at what's internally in the way, and to see what's blocking us from taking an action, which we might sort of think, well, it could be good, but I'm not sure. And what obviously is involved here is fear, right? So fear and faith, are kind of, again, very closely tied together. And to look at our fear, to feel our fear, to consider our fear, and on a very practical level, what am I afraid of? What is there actual danger in this thing that I'm afraid of? And then we get into this kind of cost benefit analysis, if you will, where it's like, well, okay, there's a risk, but what am I going to lose? I mean, like, I could stop drinking and like, I could always start again. So, I could try it, right? I could try meditating. What'll happen? Well, I probably won't like explode if I just sit still for a little while. I'll probably be okay, and people do say things like, I can't sit still for 20 minutes. I'm like, well, that's really interesting. It's a really interesting thought, because that's a belief. So the other piece here, and that now I'm, just talking here and thinking as I go along, but things that I've thought about all these things before, but I don't have it all written down right now, coming back to sort of ideas that I know or that I understand, is that everything we do is based on some belief, which implies a faith. Every time, we get out of bed in the morning because we believe. I mean, we've, affirmed it right through repetition that our day will go better if we don't stay lying down the whole time. I mean, silly example, but a lot of our decisions are based on some kind of a belief that this is going to lead to something worthwhile. And so realizing that when we think, well, I don't have faith, it's actually, of course, yes, you have faith. It's just that you don't have faith in this other thing that we're suggesting. You don't have faith in abstinence or in sobriety. You don't have faith in meditation. Obviously, I'm just kind of taking those two along as two examples, since this is a Buddhist recovery group. Those are kind of our main questions. And so just to recognize that alone, I think, is helpful. And then to say, well, okay, what's behind that, right? What is, where did this faith come from? Where did these beliefs that I have come from? And I have an exercise in my workbook about kind of unraveling your spiritual history. I think it can be a really valuable exercise. Where am I in sort of my belief system? Whether it's about God or spirituality or just whatever your view of reincarnation and all the different aspects of religion and spirituality, and to go back in our lives and consider what were the first beliefs that were basically given to me, or maybe even forced on me, and that I was exposed to, and how did I react to that? As children, we tend to just sort of believe what people tell us, right? Presumably, typically our parents. And so we sort of go along for a while with this sort of like, okay, that's the way the world is. And, if we had religious parents, maybe we get in some particular religion, we kind of got this particular thing, or maybe we didn't get anything, maybe we had to make it all up, or we took it out of, a book we read. But I think very typically, as adolescents, people start to question beliefs and sometimes become more committed and sometimes become less committed. Typical time for doubt to arise, so it begins our spiritual journey, or our lack of a spiritual journey. Throwing it all out and just saying there is nothing, is sort of a nihilism, which is another kind of faith. That's another belief. I believe that nothing means anything, that nothing has any importance. That's a belief. You can't get away from belief, really. To say you're a non-believer, well, that's a belief. In any case, to me, this is a kind of inventory, but it's a kind of Buddhist approach that is to say, what I believe right now, my faith right now was created, because everything in my mind is a creation, right? It's not that it just appears, full blown. It's got to come together through elements. So I start to see, that, and so that gives me a real opportunity to question, well, if this was like created from my parents, and then my rebellion, and then, the LSD that I took, and the book that I read, and the astrological chart that was read for me, and whatever, then I realize I don't have to be the victim, or just, I don't have to buy into this whole belief system that I'm caught in. I can really, change that. I can question it. I question what I believe. And certainly this applies to our addiction as well, and it's kind of one of the things we do with recovery. Well, how did I get to this point where I think that I've got to drink every day? How did I get to this point where I think that I need to be loaded all the time? What's that belief built of? It's just behaviors, right? And thoughts. activities, actions, relationships, social settings. So, this is a very Buddhist approach to like deconstructing our experience. And ultimately then, what we're trying to get to is realizing that if I can trust in a process, I'll put it in more specific terms, if I can trust in the Dharma, that there's this huge potential that gets unlocked, right? Because it's, the Dharma is this gateway into freedom, freedom from conditioning, fundamentally, because in very literal terms, the word nirvana or nibbana refers to the unconditioned. And we are, when we deconstruct things and see how everything that's holding us back is conditioning, then we see that if we can let go of that, there's this potential, this freedom that's there. And that's the ultimate. Most of us are not there, and maybe not going to get there. We don't have to get there in order to benefit from this understanding. We can get a great deal by just seeing this and working on this level, this deconstructive level, this looking at the conditioning and looking at what we believe and looking at what we believe and how it holds us back, how it misguides us, and how it can be reconfigured in order to, what's the reverse of being held back? Give us energy, to inspire us, to guide us into positive ways of being. And, and this is one of the reasons we have teachers and sponsors and communities, sangha and fellowship, to inspire us, to give us trust in the process, to help us to let go of our conditioning and look at new ways of being. I mean, definitely for me, a sponsor was really a critical piece of this in the first 5 years, particularly of my recovery, that he kept suggesting that I do things that I would never have done otherwise, and because I trusted him, I had faith in him, and that he was coming out of some sincerity and some wisdom, I just did them. Right. And this is one of the principles of 12-step program, is just show up and do the next right thing. And, don't listen to your own head. I mean, it was my first English professor when I went back to school, which was also an act of faith, but who said to me, I think I was talking about this recently, have you ever thought about being a writer? And I had never thought about being a writer. And I'm not sure I ever would have thought of being a writer if he hadn't just said that to me. And then he said, I think you should take a class with this particular teacher. And it was not what I had planned to do. And I didn't think it was really a good idea. But, it touched me to have someone say that. But also, I was at a stage in my recovery at 3 years sober when I had learned, listen to people who know more than you. That's a good policy in the faith department, right? Trust in people who know more than you, and try it. I can always drop out, right? I don't have to become a writer. I can just try it. And of course, in 6 months from then, I was writing a novel. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I guess I did want to be a writer. Didn't know that. But again, it was just like one of those moments of letting go of my own ideas and my own conditioning, and being willing to step into the unknown and the power that comes with that. One of the things there's two things around the Dharma that I recognize my own lack of faith that are, that there are two of the things that sort of made me think about this topic for this morning. One of them is when I was recently at the monastery of Abhayagiri and was thinking about why I had never become a monk. And the thought that came to me was I didn't have enough faith, or I don't have enough faith, because it would require giving up all this control, and I wasn't willing to give up control. When you step into particularly that Thai forest tradition, it's a very structured existence. The day, the week, the month, the year, everything is laid out for you. What you wear, when you eat, when you meditate, where you live, you let go of control of it all. And we know, I don't know, we know, I'm not sure but I believe, let's say, that's a very powerful, that has a powerful capacity to increase, freedom. I'm just using these sort of generic terms, but move you towards enlightenment, shall we say, or deepen your spiritual life to do that. But I didn't have the faith to do that. So I had enough faith to do what I've done, to continue to do what I do, but not that. And the other thing that hit me was this weekend in Minneapolis. My friend Mark Nunberg, who started and still leads that meditation center, Common Ground Meditation Center, which if you're ever in Minneapolis, I hope you will visit there. Wonderful space and wonderful community. He gave a talk about the Anapanasati Sutta, which is the sutta on mindfulness of breathing that I've been talking about a lot over the past 9 months, probably. And it was clear to me that Mark had believed in had faith in a certain way of approaching the sutta, and he gave a talk on it, and it was very powerful, very clear, and really impressive, And I thought, yeah, and the struggle that I'm having as I'm writing about the sutta is I don't have enough faith in one particular interpretation of it, and I keep questioning and questioning, and questioning is a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but it's interesting just to have that contrast and to see that, oh, here's somebody who's able to just sort of dive in and let go of the doubts around other ways of looking at this and just sort of take one approach and go with it. Very powerful. But I just saw, like, okay, I don't have that. I think the difference between us is faith in a way. So just, I think, a really valuable topic on these many levels, right? In terms of just the initial stage of recovery or abstinence. I say abstinence because giving up is like the big first thing, and you're not really in recovery just because you've stopped doing the thing. But that initial part really takes a lot of faith, and then the whole process of working the steps, like, but I don't believe in God, or what's the point of doing an inventory? Sort of those doubts and questions we might have, and how we deal with that. But then also, as I'm describing, like the challenge of, like, oh, could I go on a meditation retreat? Because finally, the point here, not the point, but what needs to be clarified, I think, is that there is faith in the thing, whether it's abstinence or Buddhism, and then there's the faith in ourselves, and they're intertwined. They're not separate, but they do have to be addressed separately. Like, I don't believe in, other religions, that's clear. And that's the outward thing. Like, I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Hindu, I'm a Buddhist. That's like the my belief system. But also then there's the internal, what do I believe in my own capacity to become enlightened? Do I believe in my capacity to be a monk? Do I believe in my capacity to go on a meditation retreat? And do I believe that I can sit still? And all those beliefs that are about my capacity to do things. So there's that. Those are the sort of two elements of faith: the internal and the external. We could say that have to be addressed. Yeah, I hope that's helpful, or just to maybe stimulate your own thinking about your own process. And maybe, Monica, you want to put in the usual information that we do put into the about Dana and all that, so people can know how to support me and to support each other. We all, besides having the opportunity for Dana, we also have it's just a Google sheet that allows you to put your name and any contact information you feel comfortable sharing for people to connect. And on that sheet, people sometimes typically will put like how long they've been in recovery and how long they've been a Dharma practitioner, and if they are open to like connecting with people or maybe sponsoring people, if whatever that looks like to you. I should also mention, I don't often mention this, but the Buddhist Recovery Network, which has the website buddhistrecovery.org, lists like meetings, because I don't consider this to be a meeting, to me more of a class, but meetings which are more just support groups for Dharma practitioners in recovery. And it lists generic kind of Buddhist recovery meetings, and it has refuge recovery and recovery Dharma as well. And you can find meetings online as well as live meetings in many, many locations, and live meetings seem to be coming back, thankfully. So, so there you go. Thank you, Monica, for putting all that in the chat. People, if you want to make offerings to me through PayPal or Venmo, that's great. Not necessary, but helpful for me. Thank you. And I hope helpful for you to be generous. So a few minutes left. If anybody would like to say anything. Susan, I see your virtual hand. Hi. You still need to unmute yourself. It's okay.
Sorry about that. I'm on Zoom all day. You'd think I'd know how to do this. First of all, I'm so glad your diagnosis is a positive one.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
yes, very. And secondly, I would just like to say, as a person coming back from a long relapse, it is so, and totally still struggling as I did for years previously in AA. I shouldn't say struggling. I'm getting tired of that word. You know, the whole God thing. And so I'm thrilled to have your book, and I'm reading 70,000 books, but it is just so helpful to hear someone with such a great quality of recovery and such an interesting life say that they struggle with faith. I just so appreciate your honesty. And I'm finally coming to this sort of understanding that I can have loads of questions and be sober. It's okay to not fucking know everything. Excuse me. And honestly, it's such a relief. And what you said today was just, I mean, I always benefit from this, but wow. Thanks a lot for your honesty. Really, really helpful.
That's great. Yeah, thanks, Susan. I have made that argument that like you can just like put aside the question of God and still, you know, because let's just like deal with the initial thing and then see where that goes. But good. Thank you. Anyone else want to chime in?
Kevin, it's Eleanor.
Hello.
Hi, I'm super glad about your health news. It's great.
Thank you.
And I I want to thank you for something you said the other day when I heard you teaching over the weekend. That just was that zinger in the meeting, in the Dharma talk, which is equanimity is the antidote for codependence.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? Life being what it is, habit patterns repeat themselves, and codependency has been an issue for me historically across my sobriety. And so
Yeah.
I'm asking if you could take a minute and talk a little bit about the practicalities, the pragmatics of accessing equanimity in a moment when it seems like it would be a benefit. How do you move away from, how do I move away from diving back into codependency with the agency of equanimity? What's a handle if I can't take a minute to sit and meditate? Is there a practical way of accessing that other than just having that wonderful idea?
Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about what that means. It's the antidote to codependence. And I got this idea from Gil Fronsdale, so not an original idea, not the codependence part. I extracted that, but that. So equanimity is the fourth of the Brahma Viharas. The first is loving kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Which and so with loving kindness we say, may you be happy. Mm-hmm. And then the second is compassion, may you be free from suffering. And then the third is sympathetic joy or altruistic joy. It's may your happiness increase if you are happy. So all of those, they're beautiful qualities, mm-hmm. but when they are carried into an extreme, when we get swept away with them, and or maybe to put it another way, when we become attached to them, when we become attached to the idea that you, particularly with compassion, that you need to be free from suffering. I need to help you to be free from suffering. Then we lose, the thread. We enter into an unskillful place where it's not really compassion anymore. It's, as you're saying, codependence. And equanimity is a quality that's meant to keep the other three Brahma Viharas in balance. Mm-hmm. And it's meant to do that by reminding us, and I couldn't think of the phrase, and I'm trying to think of it now, the classic phrase on equanimity, and maybe someone else will be able to pull it out, but this is one of the other signs of aging, as you know, not the memory. I'm not like in Alzheimer's, but my memory is not perfect. That, you are the owner of your karma. Your happiness or unhappiness depends upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. Mm-hmm. And that's the phrase. Your happiness or unhappiness depends upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. Mm-hmm. And so that it's almost something you can recite to yourself, and recite it repeatedly, until it becomes a habitual way of viewing other people. You are the owner of your actions. You are the owner of your karma. Your happiness or unhappiness depends upon your actions, not upon my wishes for you. And remembering always that the word actions refers to thoughts, words, and deeds. So people, because we know that our suffering and, much of what goes on is dependent upon our thoughts. And that's a form of action in Buddhist terms, right? So that to me, I mean, I can't, that's not going to, it's not like an auto play thing that I can just press the button and then okay, I don't feel it anymore. I'm not caught up in it, but I think that's the training that we have to go through. And I think it's a really lovely, to me, it's a lovely idea. That it's a very freeing idea. And it's clearly true, right? That when I have that thought, I don't go, well, I'm not sure. Maybe my thoughts, my wishes will affect your happiness. No, of course it's not. I can sit here and, dream all day about you being free from suffering. And it's not, I don't have some psychic power that I can go into your brain and change your thinking, and I can change your actions. It just doesn't work that way. And this is one of the challenges with metta practice, that people can get very into that, like, and it feels really good, and it really feels like I'm radiating kindness, and I can just feel the love and everything. And then you open your eyes, like people are still suffering. What the hell happened? It didn't work. It's like, no, that's not what the practice is. The practice of loving kindness, the practice of compassion, the practice of sympathetic joy are internal processes in which I heal my own heart and mind, and in which I transform my own relationship to the world, in which, I care about people instead of I judge people. I want people to be free from suffering instead of, well, they got what they deserved. So that I'm not walking around with these internal, forms of stress and anger and hatred. That it's not about like, I could feel that I was radiating loving kindness out to the edges of the universe, and the universe is all fixed now. It's not, it ain't happening. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. It's a great question, and such a one to remember. But yeah, I mean, I love that. I'm glad that I remembered it. All beings are the owners of their karma.
Kevin,
yes,
Vanessa is asking questions. She would like us to have a discussion group that we could discuss further what you teach.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up, point it out.
All beings are the owners of their karma. Their decision to start discussion groups is dependent upon their actions, not upon my wishes or my. I'm certainly not averse or opposed to that. That sounds like a lovely idea. If someone wants to begin, start that. So you're suggesting something that would be like a closed group, like a private Facebook group of people that come to.
I know how to do it on WhatsApp, and then people just give a phone number, and you just on this chat. If you want to be a member, then I would add, or if I set it up, then I would add, and it would be only for people who came to these classes. I don't know how to do it on Facebook. I can look into that. I don't know which one people would find more useful.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. Americans aren't as like WhatsApp tuned into WhatsApp as much as Europeans. And
I'll look into Facebook between now and next week, and see if I can set something up.
Beautiful. Thank you, Vanessa. That's what I like. Somebody who's taking responsibility, deciding.
You say a lot of words, and they ping in my brain, and then I forget them.
Oh yeah, well, me too.
And I thought maybe if we could talk, it kind of keeps them flying.
Yeah.
Better.
Great. Yeah. Well, okay. I'm not going to take that as a suggestion that I should say fewer words or anything. I don't think that's what you mean, but I immediately went there. Maybe I shouldn't talk so much. But there you go. The mind is a mysterious thing. So thank you all for showing up for yourselves, for each other. And
Thank you, Kevin. I'm really glad to hear that your diagnosis is clear, and
yeah,
look forward to seeing you without the bandages on your forehead.
that'll be a while.
Yeah, I know.
This thing is. But
Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day.
All right, everybody. I'll be back Friday night. So
Thanks,
Right,
Kevin.
Kevin. Take care of
Okay.
yourself. Huh?
Thank
all
you.
right, thanks.
Sending love.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank
the
you.
beanie is in, so
Okay.
you're good. You're
Cool.
looks good.
Thank you. I always need fashion, support.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
All right.
Good to see you, Kevin.
Bye. Yeah. You too, Mike.